on sponsored display ads. How long should I give the ads run before worrying about large spend without conversion to sales? Can you also explain how Amazon increases bids by 300% on sponsored display ads? Let's go through and let's talk about evaluating the funnel. So what is constituted as like, quote, wasted ad spend, right? Because not everything that's getting clicks and not converting to orders can legitimately be considered waste. Like an example would be if you got like 1 click and 0 orders. Is that wasteful? Not really, because do we expect 100% conversion rate on our ads? No. So at what point does it become waste? And so here's how I would look at it. When you're evaluating the shopper funnel, like the first thing is impressions. I'm seeing a question from Robert. I'm like, how do you overcome Amazon throttling your ads? Oh my gosh, I have tips for you when it comes to the optimization. So the first thing you have to do is just make sure that impressions are coming in. If you're getting enough impressions, then you should be leading, to a decent amount of clicks. You can evaluate the breakdown between clicks and impressions by your click-through rate. That's going to be the little bridge here. And then from clicks to orders. On a reasonable expectation from clicks to orders, that's going to be your conversion rate. Now, in our experience, sponsored display ads typically have a lower conversion rate than sponsored product ads. That's just kind of baked in there. So what you'll actually want to do is just make sure that you have low enough bids. I mean, you touched on the 300% increase. Yes, that is a thing. So sometimes if you put high bids, they can get really crazy high. You definitely want to make sure that you're not going to be hurting yourself here when it comes to orders. Really, when you focus in on it, you want to calculate your conversion rate, which is your orders divided by clicks. That's going to give you how many clicks on average it takes you to convert to an order. So I don't know if you can see this text here, but it's like an example is if your conversion rate is 6.7%, you can expect about 15 clicks to generate an order. And so that would be a good evaluation to say like, okay, how long should I give the ads to run? And I wouldn't look at it on a campaign level. We always, whenever we're doing an evaluation, because oftentimes if you look at a campaign level, like there will be things in that campaign that are performing really well. And if you just pause that entire campaign, sometimes you can you can shoot yourself in the foot. So you definitely want to make sure you're looking at a targeting level. So in this case, if I have like a 6.7%, if you had a 10% conversion rate, that equates to like 10 clicks. So you should know by 10 clicks, like, okay, I can start evaluating, right? And that's how I would look at it. The other thing that you can factor in here, now this is, I don't want to say like, takes a little bit more of an intuition, or also I would consider more, I would say like high level strategy. The reason why people who've been doing advertising for a really long time, if they've really dug into it, why they tend to be better is like, it's just pattern recognition, right? So if I was going in and I'm evaluating my sponsored display ads, and let's say I'm waiting for 15 clicks, but I'm noticing that my cost per click is $1, and my product price point is like $25, then I would say, okay, so if my product price is $25 and I have $1 per click, well, I'm going to have to pay $15 probably. And if my product price is $25, well, that puts me at a 60% ACoS. I don't really know if I could do that math. So I might start optimizing sooner. Now, I wouldn't pause it, but you might say, well, that's a little bit more forward and start to push bids down. Again, providing that you have enough data to be able to do that. I wouldn't start making those determinations off of like 2 clicks, but if I'm getting close to like 15 on like a 10, maybe even 8, I'm like, oh man, maybe I kind of overshot it in terms of what the cost per clicks are. But overall, if you're evaluating it, I would say look at these kind of metrics here. Now, in terms of what you're saying about, can you explain how Amazon increased bids by 300% on sponsored display? Yes. What happens in sponsored display ads is Amazon inherently, and the most frustrating thing I find about this is that you can't turn it off, is that Amazon has the ability to do a dynamic up and down bidding in sponsored display ads. So even if you put like 50 cents, they have the ability to like say 3x that, so have a 300% increase both up and down on that bid. You can't turn it off. Now, I did talk to the internal development team on sponsored display team, and I was able to ask them about this. I was like, hey, so you guys have this like dynamic thing. Is there any way to turn it off? And what they told me is that it won't completely get eliminated, but there is a higher probability of the sponsored display dynamic up and down bidding triggering if you are using optimize for conversions. And they said it's not going to completely turn it off, but at least when I talked to them, and this was a while ago, there was less of a probability of it triggering if you use optimize for page views, which seems completely counterintuitive, right? You're like, oh, why would I optimize for views and not conversions? But because we know that, I would recommend testing. If you're having a problem with your cost per clicks being really high, even if you put low bids, I would test optimizing for page views. Also, you used to be able to change the bidding strategy inside of the ad console. They used to have, now if you're using a VCPM sponsored display campaign, you cannot change it to a cost per click. But if it is already a cost per click campaign, meaning you're doing optimized for page views or optimized for conversions, you can switch those. You used to be able to do it in the interface, but they took that button away. But I did check, and if you know how to use a bulk file, you can hijack the system and you can still change your bidding strategy if you want to.